My God.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. In today's video, Diep's love story continues to unfold, along with the truth about little Nee, a truth that has been buried for many years, now slowly coming into the light. How will everything be revealed? How will those involved react when the truth is finally exposed? All of this will be explored in today's episode. In the previous episode, we witnessed a haunting turning point in Diep's life, a moment that seemed brief, yet powerful enough to shake a past long buried in silence. After many years of lies, secrecy, and unspoken truths, Diep's former mother-in-law accidentally saw little Nee. It was just a fleeting moment, a glance that appeared ordinary, but for her, it was the instant her entire world collapsed. That child's face, those eyes, the familiar resemblance, all of it struck her like a direct blow to the memories she had tried hardest to bury. No confirmation was needed, no further proof required. In her heart, she already knew the truth. The child she had once heartlessly given away with her own hands, the baby she believed would disappear from her life forever, had now returned, standing right in front of her, beside Diep, the daughter-in-law she had once pushed into the darkest days of suffering. Her body froze. Images from the past rushed back all at once, relentless, leaving her no escape. Diep's cries from that year, the panic, the despair, and the cruel decision she had once convinced herself was necessary resurfaced with terrifying clarity. In that moment, she realized that no matter how much time had passed, no matter how hard she tried to forget or deceive herself, the truth had always existed, merely waiting for the day it would be dragged out of the shadows. That night, Diep's former mother-in-law could hardly sleep. She lay awake through the long hours, the room silent while her mind was in turmoil. Guilt gnawed at her every second, as if every breath carried the weight of her sin. She replayed every detail of that year, the choices she made, the words she spoke, the actions that had seemed quick and decisive at the time, yet left consequences that stretched all the way to the present. The more she thought about it, the more suffocating it became. The silence she had maintained for so many years suddenly turned into a burden she could no longer bear. Finally, after a sleepless night, she understood that she could not carry this secret alone any longer. And the one person she knew she had to tell was Diep's ex-husband. When she finally spoke, her voice trembled, each word dragged up from deep within her throat. She told the story slowly, heavily, without hiding anything, without avoiding the truth. When he finished hearing everything, Diep's ex-husband was stunned into silence. He sat there without saying a word, as if all sound around him had disappeared. In that moment, he understood something he had long tried to deny. All the suffering Diep had endured, the years she lived in pain and loss, had originated from his own family. From his weakness, from his wrong decisions, and from his lack of courage to stand up and protect the woman who had once been his wife. He remembered the past, the times Diep endured everything in silence, the moments she cried while he simply turned away. Diep had once forgiven him, not because he deserved it, but because she was too kind. And that very forgiveness now filled him with deeper remorse than ever before. More importantly, he understood that Diep now had a new life. A life where she no longer lived in fear or resignation. She had James, a man who truly loved her, cherished her, and was willing to stand by her side. Something he, with all his weakness, had never been able to do. That realization made him see clearly that his place in Diep's life was now nothing more than the past, a past filled with mistakes and regret, one that could never be undone. Yet within that heavy silence, a decision slowly took shape in his mind, a decision he knew would be painful, but unavoidable, because the truth had reached a point where it could no longer remain hidden. After many days lost in heavy thoughts, Diep's ex-husband finally came to a decision that he knew he could no longer delay. It was a difficult choice, even a painful one, but it was the only thing that still felt right in this situation. The truth had been hidden for far too long, dragging behind it countless consequences, and if he continued to remain silent, he understood that the one who would suffer the deepest wounds would still be Diep. During those days, he found no peace. Every time he closed his eyes, the images of Diep and little Nie appeared vividly in his mind. The way Diep looked at the child, the gentle smile she gave her, all of it made him realize that even without knowing the truth, the bond of blood between mother and daughter had always existed naturally, without the need for any confirmation. And it was precisely that realization that made him understand he no longer had the right to stay silent. In the end, he decided to go and meet James and Diep, to tell them the entire truth face to face. Not to justify himself, not to beg for forgiveness, but simply to return to Diep what she should have known long ago. Throughout the journey there, his mind was in turmoil. He didn't know how Diep would react, didn't know what kind of look James would give him, but he understood one thing clearly: no matter how painful the outcome might be, the truth had to be brought into the open. On the day the truth was spoken, the atmosphere was suffocatingly heavy. Every word, every sentence felt like a knife cutting into the heart. When Diep's ex-husband began to speak, Diep at first could not fully grasp the meaning of what she was hearing. But only moments later, as the pieces slowly fell into place, her entire body seemed to freeze. Diep nearly collapsed on the spot. Her hands trembled uncontrollably, her breathing became rapid and strained. Her heart tightened, aching to the point where it felt unbearable. What she had just heard was like a nightmare, yet far too real, far too clear to deny. The daughter she had believed was gone from her life forever, was still alive, still growing day by day, still so close to her, still calling her mom in that familiar voice she heard every day, but in a way she had never dared to imagine. Diep panicked. She didn't know what to believe, nor how to react. Buried memories surged back violently, the pain of that year, the loss, the emptiness that had followed her for so many years. All of it came rushing back at once, crushing her mind. She felt as though she were being dragged back into the darkest period of her life, a time when she had once believed she had nothing left to lose. Diep could not accept the truth immediately. She cried for a long time, cried until she no longer had the strength to stand. Her tears fell not only from pain, but from emotions that had been suppressed for years. It was the pain of a mother who had lost her child, resentment toward fate, and the anguish of having her right to be a mother taken away within her own life. Yet amid that storm of emotions, another feeling slowly emerged in Diep's heart, gentle, but unmistakably clear. It was gratitude. Gratitude that, even though it came late and after so much suffering, she still had a chance. A chance to see her daughter grow up, to be by her side, to make up for the years that had been lost. Thinking of the fact that little Nie was still healthy, still right there beside her, Diep's heart ached, yet warmed in a way that was difficult to name. She understood that not everyone is given such a chance. And that realization meant her pain was no longer pure despair, but mixed with a fragile spark of hope, even though she did not yet know how to reach for it. But just as that sense of gratitude began to take shape, another fear quietly took its place in Diep's heart, a fear that was silent, yet persistent. A fear that made her unable to lift her head and face reality. She did not know how to tell James this truth. She did not know how he would react when he learned that the child he had loved and cared for all this time carried such a profound secret. James was the man who had stood by her, loving her with sincerity and patience. And because of that, Diep was even more afraid. Afraid of hurting him, afraid of shattering the peace she had only just found, and afraid that once the truth was spoken, nothing would ever be the same again. That worry quietly grew within her, leaving Diep, even after learning the truth about her child, still unable to find true peace in her own heart. That day, James came to visit Diep as usual, completely unaware that behind that door awaited an emotional storm that Diep herself no longer had the strength to hide. He walked in with the familiar calmness, gentle eyes and sincere concern, the same way he had always treated her. But the moment Diep saw James appear, the last defenses in her heart collapsed instantly. Almost the second their eyes met, Diep burst into tears. It was no longer restrained, no longer an attempt to stay composed or dignified. Her crying broke free, raw, uncontrollable, and heartbreaking. All the emotions she had been suppressing for days, panic, pain, fear, guilt, surged out at once, leaving her unable to stand. James was genuinely alarmed. He had never seen Diep like this before. She had always been strong, someone who chose to endure silently no matter what happened, rarely showing weakness in front of him. That was why seeing her trembling and crying so violently made his heart tighten with worry. He rushed to her side, his voice filled with fear and confusion, asking again and again what had happened, whether someone had hurt her. But Diep couldn't answer. She couldn't form a single complete sentence. Her hands covered her face tightly, her shoulders shaking as tears streamed down. Her throat was locked, as if every word was trapped inside, unable to escape. She could only cry, crying to release the pain crushing her chest, crying as if stopping would leave her without the strength to face James at all. James stood there, torn between worry and helplessness. He tried to keep his voice gentle, to calm her little by little. Yet the longer he watched her like this, the more clearly he sensed that something truly serious had happened. A quiet unease spread through him, but he remained patient, not pressing her, not demanding answers, simply staying close so Diep would not feel alone. Finally, after a long time, when the suffocating weight in her chest reached its breaking point, Diep knew she could no longer endure it. If she kept hiding it, if she stayed silent any longer, she feared she would completely collapse. She took a deep breath, trying to wipe away her tears, though her hands still trembled. In a broken voice, interrupted by sobs, Diep began to tell him everything. She spoke of the truth she had just learned, of the past she had believed was buried forever. She talked about the daughter she once thought she had lost, about the shock of discovering that the child was still alive, growing up day by day right beside her. Every word felt like a blade cutting into her own heart, yet Diep forced herself to say it all, because she knew James deserved to hear the entire truth, without a single omission. Throughout it all, James remained silent. He did not interrupt, did not question, did not react hastily. He stood still, listening to every word, his expression growing heavier with each part of her story. Every detail Diep shared made him feel the depth of the pain she had carried for so many years, a silent, lingering pain that had never found a name. James understood that for Diep to speak these words, she had fought a fierce battle within herself. He saw the fear in her eyes, the anxiety of facing his reaction, and the worry that everything might change once the truth was revealed. And so, he chose silence, giving her space to speak, to release everything that had been weighing on her heart. When Diep finished, the room fell into a heavy silence. The air seemed to freeze. Diep lowered her head, her hands clenched tightly together, her heart racing as she waited, fearful and desperate, for James's reaction. But what James did next was completely different from what she had feared. He stepped forward and gently wrapped her in his arms. Not rushed, not forceful, just a slow, steady embrace, enough for Diep to feel protected and safe. That embrace made Diep cry again, but this time the tears were softer, more fragile, as if she had finally been allowed to be weak. In that moment, James understood everything. He understood the pain Diep had endured, understood that losing a child was a wound nothing could ever truly heal. He understood why she had always shown little Nie a special kind of love, a care that went far beyond what was ordinary. And most importantly, he understood that Diep had never intended to deceive him. She was simply a woman caught between the weight of the past and the present, unsure how to escape. James did not blame her, nor did he feel resentment. He did not ask why she hadn't told him sooner, because he knew that if she could have, she would never have had to suffer alone for so long. That understanding moved Diep to tears once again. After both of them had calmed down, James made a decision that left Diep shocked and unable to stop crying. He chose to love her and protect her, not because of the past, not despite the truth that had just been revealed, but because of who Diep was. He said that the most important thing to him now was shielding her from any further harm. For the time being, James decided to keep this secret. He did not want little Nee to know the truth while everything was still so chaotic. He also did not want his mother, and especially his father, to find out at this moment, when all the relationships involved were still fragile and unstable. James understood his current situation very clearly. He had only just returned to his family after many upheavals, and the trust between him and his father was still in the process of being rebuilt. His father had only recently begun to see Diep differently, with less prejudice and suspicion than before. If this truth were revealed too soon, his father might not be calm enough to understand it, and could instead believe that Diep had deliberately hidden her past to enter the family. Because of that, James suggested that they give it more time for things to settle, for trust to become strong enough, for the truth to be received without being twisted by doubt and pain. When that time came, they would face everything together, without hiding, without bowing their heads, without fearing anyone. Diep listened to every word James said, her heart filled with both gratitude and lingering unease. She nodded in agreement, understanding that this decision came from love and protection. Yet even as she agreed, deep inside Diep remained a quiet, persistent worry. She did not know whether time would truly make things easier, and that uncertainty continued to exist within her, unable to be fully erased. How long can this secret really remain hidden, when the truth has never disappeared, only temporarily covered by silence? With each passing day, the fragile piece that Diep, James, and little Nee are holding on to feels as though a single small mistake could cause everything to collapse. They try to live as normally as possible, still smiling, still talking, still sharing life under the same roof, yet deep inside, each of them carries a quiet worry that cannot be named. Diep loves her child more than ever, but that very love often startles her. She fears that even an unconscious gesture, even a look that is too gentle, might raise suspicion. Every time little Nee calls her mom, Diep's heart fills with warmth and sharp pain at the same time. She is happy to be by her child's side, yet terrified of not knowing how long this truth can continue to be kept hidden. James remains by her side, a steady source of support for Diep. Still, even he cannot escape restless nights. He knows that keeping this secret is necessary, but he also understands that if the truth is revealed at the wrong moment, the consequences could spiral beyond control. He worries for Diep, for little Nee, and for the relationship with his family that has only just begun to heal. During that time, although everything appears calm on the surface, underneath lies a constant, silent tension. Every family gathering, every look James's father gives Diep, leaves both of them uneasy. Does he truly trust Diep? Is the goodwill that has only recently formed strong enough to withstand a truth of this magnitude? And if one day, before anyone is ready, James's father were to learn everything, that little Nee is Diep's biological daughter, that Diep's past is far more complicated than he ever believed, what would happen then? Would he choose to listen, to understand, and to accept? Or would he feel deceived, pushing this small family into a new crisis, one greater and more painful than anything they have endured before? No one can be certain. All that is clear is that each passing day is a test of love, trust, and patience for James and Diep. Will they be strong enough to protect each other and protect little Nee to the very end? Or will the truth, once revealed, force everyone to face choices they never wished to make. All of this will gradually be revealed in the next episode. Stay tuned to see where the story of James, Diep, and Little Nee is headed, and whether this small family can preserve their fragile peace as an unseen storm quietly draws closer.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Đây thì mình đang làm video hôm nay hơi đau đầu tí. Thường những triệu chứng này của mình là do hôm qua mình thiếu ngủ quá mọi người. Hôm qua mình ngủ không có được, mình không có ngon.